Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Wolf Day at the Capitol 2024. I'm Maureen Hackett. I started Howling for Wolves in 2012. I basically started it as an emergency. We started Howling for Wolves to try to stop a wolf hunt. So I think we've all seen how much we've needed Howling for Wolves because we were making so much noise at the time that they had the wolf hunts. They did a lawsuit, HSUS, and the people that originally were suing to keep wolves on the endangered species list sued again in 2013 to get wolves back on the endangered species list. And that's really how the hunts ended in Minnesota. Now, I'm going to do a sound check. Is this too loud? Okay, little loud. All right, this might be really loud. Is that too loud? Okay, good. Anyway, so this is Wolf Day at the Capitol. Thank you for coming. And thank you to Leslie and Kristen, who set everything up today and been preparing all along. I'm going to try not to pop the peas. Thank you to the people who are behind the scenes online. That is the people running our social media. Brendan Kennedy, if you're out there. Hello, Brendan. And everybody else watching online. So thank you for all your support over the years, and everybody who's ever taken an action, everybody who's ever made a phone call, an email, thank you, because this wouldn't happen without people. It really wouldn't. And we've needed to be here. We've needed to be wildlife warriors. We've needed to say, no, this isn't right. We aren't going to slaughter wolves. So we've had a lot of progress over the years, even though it doesn't seem like it. Basically, all along since about 2017, we've managed to get non-lethal methods funded for livestock producers. We've done that every year, and it's with our advocacy. We've kept the trappers on their back feet as much as possible, and we will continue to do that because they do torture animals, and there is no question about that. So we'll get into that a little bit more. So I'm going to bring you up to date. Last spring, the House took a vote, and they voted 69 to 57 to prohibit wolf hunting. And that was the second time we passed a bill in the House. The first time was in 2019 by one vote. We never got a vote in the Senate on banning wolf hunting, on prohibiting wolf hunting. We had the Senate take other votes. They took a vote on banning snaring many years ago, but not this one. So last week in the Senate session, while they were hearing the omnibus environment bill, two amendments were brought forward to the floor, and one was by people who want to kill wolves. And that amendment was a mandatory wolf hunt. And it was actually scary to see how many people voted for that bill. It was every Republican, unless somebody walked. And I will give Senator Pratt credit, you walked for that bill. Senator Housechild, I believe, walked for that bill. Or no, he actually may have voted no. He's a Democrat who voted against us on the prohibition of hunting. So anyway, so there was that bill. And that was probably the reason the Senate agreed to hear our bill, even though right before the vote, they told us we didn't have the votes. They said they had 4 Democratic senators who were not voting to prohibit wolf hunting, but we asked for the vote anyway, because we wanted people to go on the record as to how they stood. So that's what happened last week. We narrowly missed the prohibiting wolf hunting. It was 30 to 35. So if you have a Democratic senator, you more than likely have a senator that voted for prohibiting wolf hunting, that voted for our cause, for the wolf. Except if you have Senator Housechild, I'm going to name them, Senator Frentz, Senator Latz, which surprised us, Senator Hoffman, Senator Kupek. Senator Abler, who's a Republican, voted with us. So we could say it's bipartisan. He was also an author of the bill. So that's what's happening. The Senate is not coming up for an election for 2 years. We don't see a pathway of changing until they get out of office, the people that voted against us. But today, your main goal of your meetings is to figure out how your senator or how your House member voted, and I will tell you, every member who was Democratic in the House voted with us, and one Republican voted with us, Andrew Meyer out of Lake Minnetonka. So more than likely, if you have a Democratic House member, they voted to prohibit wolf hunting. If you have a Democratic senator, they voted to prohibit wolf hunting. And what we want you to do is thank them. Make a big deal out of it. Make them really feel like it was important, so they and ask them if they have any concerns and listen. Because we want to know what concerns they have. We want to know what people are saying to them to not vote for it. So that you're our intelligence gathering. It's not so much of a sale job today. I mean, you can give them facts if you want, but listen to what their concerns are first so you know what facts they are really interested in. So that will help. And if you write down what their concerns are, we can go back to them later. So what I'm going to do is, that's the goal for today. I'm going to give the microphone, and you're going to have to be careful with it, Dr. Fox, because it's a weird microphone, to Dr. Fox, who's going to read a statement. Michael W. Fox, Michael Wilson Fox, doctor of veterinary medicine, and I think he's a doctorate of science and wildlife science. He will tell you about himself. Then I'm going to get the microphone back from him, and I'm going to give you a little talk. And then we're going to get you out of here after a photo by 11:45 for everybody that has the noon meetings. Dr. Fox.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Dr. Hackett and all of you being here to protect one of our relations. I apologize for getting the dates wrong last year, but I was upside down dealing with my wife who had many health issues, and she passed away on December 27th of this past year. She was my soulmate, and she knew one of the wolves that I raised called Tiny. I've written a statement here that I will read, otherwise I'm going to be talking all day about wolves. The first gray wolf, Canis lupus, probably appeared in Eurasia about 1 million years ago and migrated to North America 750,000 years ago. Humans evolved much later. Have we evolved? And they first came to North America 30,000 years ago. The human species is estimated to be only 300,000 years old. Some of the indigenous peoples revered the wolf as a teacher, an exemplar of virtues, caring for their young and never killing more than they need under the constraints of natural law and ecological sustainability. Systematic European colonization, beginning some 5 centuries ago, heralded sod-busting agriculture, the timber industry, and livestock production, linked to the persecution and near annihilation of wolves and indigenous peoples. Today, we witness climate change and loss of biodiversity because planet Earth cannot sustain a human population of 8 billion people demanding meat, spreading pesticides, and burning fossil fuels. The wolf has become a symbol of a nation divided. Some want to protect them while others want to kill them. Some people suggest more localized solutions are in order, killing them as needed, but by whom and why? They never needed to be managed for 750,000 years. But the rabid Hunters for Hunters organization want them managed for trophy hunting, and trappers wait in the wings to put out snares and steel jaw traps. Livestock keepers can use non-lethal methods to protect their animals from wolves and other predators, as with the various breeds of guard dogs recommended by the US Department of Agriculture. As for local complaints about a few smaller dogs being occasionally killed by wolves, Dogs, like children, should be supervised and never allowed to run free where there are predators and traps. The foundation of democracy is based on equal rights for all, protected under the law in maintaining peaceful coexistence. The divergent interests of various segments of society can undermine and even destroy this foundation if there is not an overarching, unified sensibility of respect for all life. That includes wolves. It is notable that the national environmental group Non-Human Rights Project is calling on Governor Spencer Cox to veto a bill in Utah that lawmakers passed in early 2024 that prohibits the use of legal personhood in cases involving various entities, including any member of a species that is not a human being. In contrast, legal personhood has been signed into law in New Zealand for the Wanganui River and Maori Urewera lands. Now, Maori Pacific leaders are proposing the same for Wales at the United Nations as a further step to protect the environment. For a democratic government and society to be sustainable, the personhood of non-human animals, such as wolves and whales, should be recognized and protected under international law. Such a trans-species democracy would benefit humankind by virtue of the vital ecological services wolves and other species provide, and in the process contribute under the environmental banner of One Health to our own well-being. Minnesotans living with the largest gray wolf population east of the Rockies might rise to this occasion, now critically overdue with the climate change and extinction crises we all face today, and lead the states in maintaining wolf protection under the Endangered Species Act, if not also recognition of their personhood. Thank you.
Yes, Whanganui is the name of the river that they gave personhood to in New Zealand. I was kind of around there when they were doing that. Okay, so you've already had mostly an overview of the day. I gave you the briefing. I'm going to give you a little bit more because we have one more bill that we might be able to advocate for. Amos over there is our lobbyist. Sorry, he's not on camera. We'll get him on camera later. So we'll answer all your questions. We have a lunch from Root to Rise. It's a vegan lunch. It's delicious. We have more vegan junk food this year. And then we have all the meetings. And if you don't have a meeting with your representative, but you want to go wander over to their office, there's nothing that says you have to go through us to meet your representative at all. In fact, they're probably more likely to meet with you if you don't go to them. So as Dr. Fox said, we are home to the largest and only original population in the lower 48 of wolves that never went extinct. And we know wolves are critical. All of us, to the person who doesn't know anything, just say, wolves, they help trees grow. Wolves help vegetation grow. They're critical to a biodiverse ecosystem. That's why you're trying to save them. One of the reasons. I think we all know there are many. And then we also know that they're not like deer. They're not like other hunted species. They live in social packs and they depend on each other for their survival. So we also now know that humans killing wolves, so a human caused wolf death, actually creates more wolf deaths. So we'll get into that in a few more slides. But for now, just rest assured that the vast majority of Minnesotans are resting with you. The vast majority said no to the wolf hunt when the DNR did the original online survey before they had a hunt. And the vast majority in a survey that we hired for polling showed that 79% of the state in all regions, random digit dial phones calls, it wasn't from any voter polling, said they agreed with the following statement: wolves are an asset to the state of Minnesota that should be protected for future generations. And what we say is, how does a hunt do that? It doesn't. And we all worried when they had the hunt that it was going to create, and it did, this voracious appetite by a small group of people to kill wolves. So now we know that with that legal killing, and other studies have shown this, comes more illegal killing. I mean, you know, here's an example. Look at Wyoming. They have plenty of hunting in Wyoming, but that horrible person, whose name shall not be mentioned, ran down that wolf and tortured it. So, you know, he could have, when the first debate happened about whether we were going to have a wolf hunt, we heard the hunters and even certain wolf experts, which will go unnamed, would say, oh, we need to let them let off a little steam, or we owe it to our primary clients, the hunters and trappers, and to our secondary clients to give them a hunt as soon as we have management capabilities. That's what the DNR said. And then they pressured the legislature. So that's why we're at the legislature, to try to undo what they did in 2012. So the main thing is with legal wolf killing comes more illegal killing. And here is a paper that was published in July of this past summer of 2023 that looked at the data by the DNR. They collected the data of collared wolves from 2004 through 2019. And as soon as the hunt started, the trend in overall mortality of wolves went from 21%. I don't know if you can see that. The overall before the hunt went from 21.7% to 43%. And that's the overall mortality. The human caused mortality went from about 10% to 35.8%. And it didn't stop when the hunt stopped. It went through the end of the data in 2019. So you had 21%, and then November 2012 comes along, and now you've got a jump to 43. I can't do this on the camera, to 41.43%, double basically, and tripling of the human caused wolf deaths. And it has not stopped. So what we tell the DNR is, you can't control wolf killing. You can't. It's already happening. There's lots of wolf killing going on, legal and illegal. So what are you going to do? The first thing you do is you show that wolf killing is bad. How do you do that? You take a hunt out of law. You say, we're not going to kill wolves for pleasure. We're not going to kill wolves for recreation. We already kill wolves. So I don't know if anybody saw my op-ed that was published March 10th online in the Star Tribune. Basically what I lay out is, that was years in the making, really. I mean, just how do I explain this? So there is no tradition of wolf hunting. That's what I started it out with. You may be surprised to know there is no tradition of wolf hunting. We actually tried to wipe them out. And when they came back, they just came back. And we're like having these hunts. It's like idiocracy. Right. So, you know, here's the wolf population estimates. We know that these estimates are probably an overestimate. We know this based on, if you look at our website under videos, we have a video called Miscounting Minnesota Wolves. I won't go into the detail now. It's only under 4 minutes. It will explain how they count wolves. Bottom line is we still are under the amount of wolves we had in 2008. Almost there, but we also know they've ramped up the killing. So the wolves they counted in January in the winter, probably dead by the end of the summer. Pack sizes are still really low. Look what the pack sizes were in 1988, about, over 5.5. And then actually, I think they were over 6 really. I think this, but I don't know. I guess that's a plus or minus, but now we're at 3.9 wolves per pack. That's better than it could be, but that's not that many. So we know the recreational wolf hunting trophying started in 2012, and we had 3 years of hunts. But what's really key, most people, I'll get rid of this because we don't want to look at them. The DNR rushed it so much, they didn't even do a baseline survey. They didn't even measure wolves since 2008 before they did the hunt in 2012. Tell me they really care about recovering the wolf. Tell me they're scientific. No, they were rushed. So from 2015 until 2021, wolves were put back on the endangered species list by the lawsuit that HSUS, Humane Society of the United States, and others, thank you HSUS, for doing that lawsuit. And then in 2020, right before the elections, wolves were delisted throughout the whole lower 48. We have Governor Walz to thank that, well, at least he told the DNR that they had to do a new plan. And so that delayed it enough that we had time to get wolves back on the endangered species list in February 2022. So wolves were relisted in February 2022. But we did not have a hunt like Wisconsin did, in part because we didn't have a mandatory wolf hunt law. They did in Wisconsin. And had we had that law, we would have had a hunt, which is why it was so important that all of you guys took actions, and why it's so important to go on offense for defense rather than just defending against a mandatory wolf hunt, right? You're always on your back foot. No, 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 no. You go aggressive. You say prohibit wolf hunting. Anyway. We know they occupy, I mean, some groups say they occupy 10% of their historic range. Some people say, I say 5% because really where they're occupying, there might be 2 packs in the whole state, you know, of California. Time to go.
I don't know if you saw Senator Dibble here. Yeah.
Oh, Senator
Can we
Dibble,
have him say a few words?
you want to say hi?
Yeah, can we have him say a few words? Yeah.
Oh, great. Thanks, Maureen. I was to stop by to say hi, but I'm super happy to have a chance to say a few words to everyone gathered here. So thanks, of course, to the amazing Maureen Hackett, who has just been doing this incredible work for so long. So, yeah. Oh, gotta stay in the camera, I guess. So, I'm just going to take a few quick seconds. I wanted to, if you haven't yet met Aaron Zellhofer, he's the new policy director and lobbyist in Minnesota for the United States. I just want to say first, heartfelt thank you for coming to the Capitol. And of course, please understand that this is your house, that, people like me are just visiting, we're just renting. We'll be in and out at some point. But of course, you are the citizens of the state of Minnesota. We are your elected representatives. And our democracy doesn't work well. It doesn't function at all if you are not in deep relationship and conversation with all of us. And that's exactly what we need to make sure that we understand what your expectations, your knowledge, your experience, and your values are. If anyone is here for the first time doing citizen lobbying, anyone raise your hand if you're first time citizen lobbying? Okay, well, welcome. I'm sure this is not true of you, but some people, when they come over and lobby in person for the first time, it feels a little bit intimidating or a little mysterious. Do not be intimidated, and it's not at all mysterious. And don't be like, we're not mysterious people as legislators. I like to say that even state senators, who represent twice as many people as state representatives, we only represent about 80,000 people. So, we're just a cut above dog catchers. So, we're basically local elected officials. We put our pants on one leg at a time. And most of us, I won't speak for every one of my colleagues, but most of us really welcome when constituents come to the Capitol to engage with us, to have meetings, to have conversations, to let us know what you think about the policies that we have in front of us. Otherwise, those policies and laws are words on a paper, they're abstract, they don't have context, they don't have connection and meaning to people's lives and people's stories. So to contextualize everything and to understand it and to really drive it home, to seal the deal, we need to hear the stories. The other thing I have to say is that, there's always a question, I've got a great legislator and they're always right on this issue. Is it worth my time because they're just amazing? Yes. It's really, really important for us to hear from everyone. It helps increase the level of intensity, the urgency, the priority we feel around an issue. We know that people in our district care. Conversely, when there's someone who is just completely hopeless, and should I even bother because it's wasting my breath? Yes, you need to be in conversation with the person who's elected to represent you for a number of reasons. One is, of course, that they know that they don't occupy the monopoly on perspective in their district with the position that they've taken. Number two, it might soften their opposition to the position that you would have them have. And I'll just finally say that silence is a form of communication. When you're not engaged with your elected representative, you're saying something to them. You are in communication. The metaphor, of course, is that, you know, we all live in this great life in a canoe that's on a river or a creek, and we're either going to put our oar in the water or we're not. We're still going to go somewhere. We might as well have some ability to manage and direct and have some agency in that place where we go. And that's what engaging in democracy is all about. You know, even if you don't have an appointment, hopefully you all have appointments, but even if you don't have an appointment with your legislator, don't be shy about figuring out where they are, if they're in committee, or I don't think anyone's on the floor today, you know, send a note in to them in committee and ask them to step out, or just go to their office, even if you don't have an appointment, and ask to speak with them. I get drop-ins all the time. I always prioritize my constituents, even though they just come over without an appointment. It's the most important thing we do. On this subject, I want to say that, you know, we've been at it for a number of years. You're building a mighty movement. We're getting closer and closer. It may feel frustrating because we haven't quite gotten there. But as Maureen has said, we absolutely stand solidly with the majority view and values of the vast majority of Minnesotans. So feel confident in that. And the only difference now, you know, and we have all the arguments, and Maureen's, she's a scientist, so, you know, she gives you all, you know, the facts and evidence are important, the values and the moral high ground, super important as the foundation. And then the final piece to put in place, of course, is engagement and politics. And that's the equation, part of the equation we need to change. And we're getting there. I mean, I know we had a vote on the floor. Wasn't quite how we came out, but we came close, and we're just going to get closer. This will happen, so just stay at it. It took me some of my Aaron and I have been best personal friends for 20 years now, and Aaron can tell you that work that we started together as activists took us over 20 years on a couple of different issues. So sometimes, you know, things that matter just take a long time, and probably because they matter. And so thank you so much for being here, building this mighty movement for incredible core values around our shared humanity and our environment and our earth and the wolves, and is super important. So thank you again for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Senator Dibble. That was an unexpected bonus. That was an unexpected bonus. Thank you. I will be quick. So another new research that came out last year really shows that killing one wolf truly does affect the whole pack. So basically, this was looking at wolves that were in national parks and they were illegally killed. You know, there's a difference between a natural death and a human-caused death. And that it really, when you take a wolf out of turn in a human-caused death, that's the massive impact. So when just one wolf would be removed from a pack and it wasn't even a leader wolf, whether that pack would be together by the end of the year was decreased by 27%. And whether that pack reproduced was decreased by 22%. So about 25% for both. If it was a leader of the pack, 73% of the time, the pack didn't continue through the end of the year, and 50% of the time, the pack did not reproduce. So it does have additive mortalities when you kill wolves by human causes. And that's why I think we've actually had more livestock wolf conflicts this year. That's what happened. This slide's a little bit out of, I'm just going to skip that. And you know, this is our top priority. So basically, we have the numbers. I don't know if we put them on here, I forget, but the livestock conflicts and the complaints were slightly increased this year, and the number of wolves that were killed were increased. So we had gotten it down to like 160 wolves last year, 162, and this past year, it was 248. wolves were killed. And there's all this like, oh, we see wolves everywhere. Well, actually, the numbers of wolves probably haven't changed. What we're doing is we keep chopping them down to little small packs that can't support their young, and they get into trouble. And we need to let them, just leave them alone. That's why our whole theme is leave the packs intact, or keep the packs intact. Just leave them alone. You know, let them sort out their genetics, let them sort out the territories, let them grow old, leave them alone. If there's a problem, we know what to do, right? I mean, they're killing wolves all the time. Oh, so I'm going to go back here. One of the priorities, Amos, I'm not sure how much you want to, you don't have to talk because you're writing, but so basically, we still have a chance to get something done this year. Okay, we're not finished. And that is, there's an amendment to require permission to trap on private lands. You can come up if you want. And this amendment would be either written or verbal. So if you want to put traps on somebody's private lands, you got to get permission. We're having a little trouble right now because the amendment's been amended. And we're fighting that amendment.
Yeah.
But basically what you will have in your packet, or what you're going to talk about, is basically you want to tell them, look, pass this. It's the first step to backing off, you know, traps. People have a right to know if there are traps on their land. People have a right to know, even if they have land up north and they're down here in the southern part of the state or the central part, that somebody's trapping on their property or not. And if you have to put a sign up, the problem is a lot of the signs just say no trespassing, but maybe you just don't want them to put traps and you're fine with people walking through your property. Are we going to have all these no trespassing signs everywhere and nobody's going to know, you know, is it traps? Is it me not walking or what? So this is Amos Briggs. He's our lobbyist.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Maureen, and thanks everyone for taking the time to be here. To repeat what everyone's saying, it's the people that show up that make the difference here. And I'm going to get in the camera for those online. There we go. So you are it. You are the people that make the difference, as Senator Dibble and Maureen have said. By not doing anything, you're telling your legislators something. So by showing up and being here, even if it's a quick handshake, you are now in the 99th percentile of constituents. So my job as a lobbyist, I get a little more technical on what is actually moving through our process here. The session started in February. It has to end by May 20th. And so we're kind of in the home stretch where the decisions are going to be made. Our flagship North Star issue is repealing the hunt. That hasn't changed. We've made some progress. We hit an obstacle in the Senate last week, but make sure to communicate to your legislators that issue is not going away, and that's what we care about. Kind of secondary to that, but vital, is what Maureen just alluded to. So there's the House and the Senate. This is not currently moving in the Senate, but they'll have a chance to look at it. But in the House, in their environment bill, they did include an issue that we brought forward to the forefront many years ago, and this has been another incremental progress story. Because right now in Minnesota, any form of outdoor recreation, you can do that on private property without getting permission. So that includes if you're walking through someone's land, hunting deer, if you're portaging a canoe, you name it. All these forms of outdoor recreation. And one of those in statute is trapping. Where we view trapping as unique, of course, is unlike all the other forms of outdoor recreation where the individual doing the outdoor recreating is present and there, and someone could actually tell them, hey, why are you here and what are you doing? A trapper leaves something behind, and it's what they're leaving behind isn't just something, they're leaving behind, you know, a trap that's set and left to kind of sit there in probably a camouflage position to try to obviously trap animals. But there's something called bycatch where it could harm its non-target animal, could harm a dog, it could even harm a human. And so what we think Minnesota should do, like I believe 22 other states as well as Wisconsin, is simply ask trappers to go ask first. Hey, private property owner, may I leave a trap on your land? Verbal or written permission can suffice. You can email, whatever. We think that's very reasonable. The Minnesota Trappers Association, they're another interest stakeholder here at the Capitol. They don't like that. They've said, well, it's really hard, you know, to always know where the land is and whose property it is, et cetera, et cetera. We think it's very reasonable to put the onus, yeah, thanks, Ray, to move that onus, right? Is that, well, who should be responsible here? Should it be the private property owner who has to go and post every so many feet, no trespassing, no trespassing? that should hold the responsibility, or should it be the person entering the private property to do the trapping? We think it's very, very reasonable to shift that. Other states have done it for decades without a problem. So please raise that, both in the House and Senate. If you're talking to a senator, say it's moving in the House, but they've probably heard of it, but that it shouldn't be exempt. The way they've written it in the House right now is north of Highway 2, which is the northern third of the state where the ecological impact, frankly, would be greatest. Why do we care about wolves? Again, it's bycatch, right? It's the more traps are out there, the more wolves are going to be injured or killed by them. And for those owners that don't want that to happen, they should have the right to refuse that. Often our allies in this are dog owners that don't like their dogs, often hunters that don't like their hunting dogs. We've also heard from people who do search and rescue with dogs that their dogs are trained to follow human sense, so they'll follow it right to a trap and get hurt or worse. So this is just, it seems so obvious. It really appeals to people on both sides of the political spectrum. It's about private property rights. We care because of wolves, but legislators might care for their own reason. So please raise that today. With that, I'll hand it back to Maureen. Thanks. Any questions?
And we'll definitely answer questions at the end, but Wisconsin has this law since 1995. Okay, so was it real quick? No, what that is, we'll repeat it. He said it once. The amendment is to exempt anything above Highway 2. And so we, that's where the wolves live. That's where all our fur-bearing animals live. And basically, that's where a lot of private property owners live or have private property.
Walker and Grand Rapids.
And they're crying because it's so hard. It's hard, Gotta have, yeah, you gotta face those private landowners because what you're doing is ugly. Anyway. So, yeah, that by the way, what is it? White Earth? White Earth. I would love to see them get their land. Or at least I know that they will leave it in a better condition than they got it. And they're not going to just have it for timber. All right, so I think this is kind of about it. I think you guys, we have a short session. We know the governor was on our side. We know had we been able to, get this bill to the governor's desk, we know he would have signed it. And it would have solved a lot of problems right now, including, once again, changing human behavior. I'm going to say this to the whole audience. I am a psychiatrist. I'm actually a forensic psychiatrist. I've dealt with probably the ugliest kind of human behavior toward animals and people that you ever want to hear about, which you won't. But how do you change human behavior? Well, sometimes you actually have to make a law. That's like the first step. And then you have to show you're willing to enforce it. And then you have social pressure. Social pressure, like, ew, you want to kill a wolf? Really? I wouldn't tell anybody. That's really gross. Anyway, so that, you change behavior socially, what's socially acceptable, what's your neighbor doing, and by laws. So the DNR didn't get that, though, because they left that wolf hunt dangling in their wolf plan. They also really didn't specify how they're actually going to protect wolves in their wolf plan. It was all about when they reached a certain number, and they kind of recreated like the bottom number of 1,600. They decided at that, anything above that, they could consider a hunt. It was just kind of crazy. So I'm going to keep going here. We're pretty much done, and we need to get a photo. I think that's it. They have tons and tons. Here, you guys have your non-lethal methods handout in your folders, but I'll just show you a picture of it. So if you want to leave that with your legislator, I think they're always interested in seeing what we actually accomplished. And you know how we accomplished that? We hid. When we first got through the committee funding for non-lethal methods, I didn't even go to the committee. I didn't want them to think that the wolf people were for this, because if they thought the wolf people were for it, they wouldn't have done it. But now it's not so bad. So we can say, hey, we actually had our lobbyists, we wrote the bills, we talked to the legislators. So your goal for today's meeting, just feel the room, just say hi. Tell them how much you appreciate their service. Thank them for their service. Figure out before you go in how they voted, Thank them for their vote if they voted for you with the wolf. And then to say, do you have any concerns? Do you have any questions? Anything I could answer? And listen, because we want to know what they're thinking. If they didn't vote for you, if they voted against, say, thank them for their service. Say, you know, I'm just really curious. What is your main concern? What is it that prevented you from voting to prohibit wolf hunting? And just listen, because they're going to be in for 2 more years. We have 2 years at least until they're reelected to work on them. You're not going to be able to work on them in 15 minutes. What you're going to do is gather intelligence and listen to their slips of tongue, watch their body language, see how they behave. Just kind of try to, even for the most oppositional person, just try to be a source of information for them. If you don't know the answers, say, we'll find out more. We'll get back to you. Anyway, so now Leslie's going to talk, and then we're going to have a photo, and then we're going to get you out of here.
Great. Thank you, Maureen. And thank you, Dr. Maureen Hackett, for everything. Yeah. Actually, Senator, do you want to say a few words? And you guys, I want to introduce Senator Mary Kunis. She is authoring the bill. Actually, I get this right. She authored the amendment. Yeah, actually, why don't Maureen do it? Yeah.
Superstar. Come on. Here, you can sit there. So Senator Kunis agreed to have the vote, even though she knew we didn't have the votes. She agreed to put it forward on the floor. Come into the camera here. Oh. She had to stand there and take the questions some of which were meant for me, not for her. So the whole time I was like texting somebody. I was going crazy listening to those questions. But anyway, Senator Kunis, thank you for introducing the bill. Thank you for authoring it. Here you go.
Oh, thanks very much. I'm really happy to be able to step over here for about 5 minutes between everything, and so impressed with the fact that there are so many of you here that are advocating for this legislation. It really is important to me and to a lot of people that we are recognizing the value of these very precious animals and the fact that they should not be up and available for slaughter because perhaps a few cows die, perhaps there's other circumstances within the agriculture community that wolves have affected individuals. That doesn't mean that we should ban or we should open it up for a massive wolf hunt. We know what will happen. We saw what happened in Wisconsin when they did that, and not having those kind of controls over for animals that are very vulnerable, and the consequences of killing pack leaders and decimating their communities is, when you look at it and you apply it to the human aspect of life, it's very much so similar. And I just don't agree in, these mass extermination of animals that have been on these lands, on the earth for generations, millions of years. And the fact that there are some that would like to exterminate them, I just can't go along with that. So I'm proud to carry this bill. I know it's a very controversial bill, both for Democrats and Republicans. And yeah, I brought it up on the floor, even though I knew that there was slim chance it would pass. I mean, I had very limited expectations, but what it did do is it brought the conversation to the public. It brought it to the general legislature as a whole, instead of just within a few committees. And there are more people that I have spoken to since we brought it to the floor that had no idea that there was even, discussion around opening it up for wholesale slaughter of the wolves. I don't think really anybody does. And it's kind of ironic to me when we support and put state dollars into the Wolf Center because they're so precious and they're so fascinating, and we want kids to know all about them, and the fact that we have other protections around them, and then we would turn around and create an environment where the wolves be possibly exterminated. So I'm very proud to carry this legislation. I'm proud to work with all of you. I know there are folks that are, you know, dedicating their lives to protecting the wolves, and so appreciate that in every effort. And just know that you can continue to expect me as a supporter, and I'll do what I can to protect those wolves. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator Kunesh. I think she wants a picture with you here. Yeah, yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.